I need to tell you that the Planning Committee has done some incredible work in putting all of this together. As you heard Rachel say earlier, they did make one mistake, and that is that after they found out that I was going to be departing the council, they really convinced Will Heaton, who then told me, I had nothing to say, that I had to share some thoughts with you about the future of rural philanthropy before I quote walk out the door. So here you are, for better or for worse. And so I put these thoughts down on paper over the weekend, and I hope they're helpful to all of you in this room and to others as we go forward. But, you know, as I prepare to conclude my leadership at the council, I have found myself stepping back to all the earlier events during my 6-year tenure. My goal in looking back has often been to get some sense of both how much has changed and at times how much is the same. In August of 2007, we gathered for the council's first Rural Philanthropy Conference in Missoula. This was, as you know, motivated by Senator Boggs' call for greater philanthropic support of rural America's future in his keynote address in 2006. In July of 2009, we reconvened at Clinton Library in Little Rock. In the height of the economic recession, we expected probably some 40 loyalists to show up, only to discover almost 4 times as many people still cared about rural America and attended. Now we've gathered here in Kansas City for the Council's 3rd conference on rural philanthropy, and I need to begin by expressing my deep personal appreciation to all the Planning Committee, but in particular to Therese and Kevin. A lot of you have asked, what happens to the Rural Conference after Steve leaves the council? Well, I can't speak for future leaders, and I wouldn't want to. But it's my fondest hope that through these 3 conferences and our work in promoting rural philanthropy that we have made clear the Council on Foundations simply cannot claim to be the voice and vision for growing philanthropy's role in society if it does not include an essential commitment to both service and leadership for rural philanthropy. The theme of this conference was created before my decision to step down, but the commitment to innovate, implement, impact is probably more important today than it was in early spring. For if I have one concern about rural philanthropy, it is this. We've done a lot of good research. We've done a lot of good planning. But I'm not certain that we fully implemented our work in ways that has achieved the impact across rural America that every one of us hopes. This we know. According to Don Mackey's new research, over the next 50 years, there will not be a $41 trillion transfer of wealth. There will be a $75 trillion transfer of intergenerational wealth. While urban wealth has decreased due to the economy and the markets, there is some evidence that rural land values have actually increased during this same time. We are, as we learned yesterday, in the peak of that transfer of wealth in much of rural America. As I just told Jerry Hegstrom, the clock is ticking for us in rural America to capture this wealth. Yet our community foundation sector tells us that 86% of Americans are today covered by community foundations. You and I can quickly conclude that 14% not served by community foundations today probably are in rural America. 3 years ago, the Council published Philanthropy in Rural America. I had the opportunity to write the introduction to that journal. Its title was A Personal Vision of Rural America in 2015. Looking into the future, even before Robert Groves and Bill Duncan's presentation on rural demographics, I suggested immigration and diversity will describe rural America's population just as it now defines our urban centers. Technology will define rural America's ability to participate in the global economy. Skilled workers will determine which rural communities prosper in a knowledge-based economy. Workforce skills, not work habits, will mark the difference between prosperity and poverty. Infrastructure needs will challenge rural America from transportation to communications. Our ability to connect to the rest of the world will determine our ability to participate in a 24/7 global economy. An appreciation of the arts, the environmental ethics, and a commitment to community creativity in every sense of that term will define our values. While we can focus on what hasn't changed in rural America, there is a lot that has. One word summarizes to me this change, and that word is diversity. Our populations are increasingly diverse, reflecting the changing face of our nation. Farming, while a treasured element of rural America, is now a smaller part of an increasingly diversified rural economy. We all agree that the concept of a one-size-fits-all rural development plan is simply history. Each region is very different. Today, philanthropy has more diverse tools to support our future than ever before. From donor-advised funds which enable middle-income Americans to become philanthropists, to L3Cs creating new partnerships between social enterprise and philanthropy. This is a very different rural America than even 6 years ago. Earlier this summer, a good friend of mine and many of yours, Carl Stoller, published a series of essays in Daily Yonder titled Finding a New Rural America. In those papers, Carl points out that agriculture provides today slightly more than 5% of the jobs in rural America. For rural regions to produce what America needs, America must support rural opportunities, but these opportunities must be different, focused on constantly creating competitive advantage. New Rural is about helping regional efforts to build diverse, evolving, competitive advantage that grows the amount and distribution of wealth. If our children and grandchildren must leave rural America to find prosperity, then our approach to New Rural is failing. This, I know. The rural economy of the past will not create rural America's future. The public sector doesn't have the resources to sustain our economies of the past, nor subsidize our transition to the future. The one largely untapped source of innovation capital for rural America's future lies in the potential of rural philanthropy. And I'm not sure which is more powerful, the innovation of philanthropy or the potential of philanthropic resources in every rural county in America. So what should we do? First, we need rural America's children who have become urban America's adults to send some of those rural philanthropic resources back home. Second, we must recognize the importance of building a new generation of philanthropic infrastructure in our rural communities, especially that 14% of the nation not yet served by a community foundation. Third, the value of collaboration among foundations cannot be overstated. Can we create donor-advised funds in urban community foundations targeted to the donor's rural legacy? Can we encourage more of our larger foundations to become our partners in creative, innovative work? We talk a lot about the exit of large foundations from rural areas, but I know of the Ford Foundation's Wealth Creation in Rural America initiative, Kresge's Rural People, Rural Places, McKnight's True Legacy of Rural Initiatives in Minnesota, the Knight Foundation's funding many community initiatives in rural America, the National Fund for Workforce Solutions at Work in Rural as well as Urban Workforce Initiatives, and the Clinton Foundation's CGI America, which just last month convened a separate track on rural America. We can and we must find ways to connect their passion with our purpose. Fourth, we must recognize this window of opportunity is immediate. Jeff Yost has taught me and taught me well that Nebraska and in many parts of rural America, we are in the peak of the intergenerational transfer of wealth in rural counties today. Someday, I will return home to Trempealeau County, Wisconsin. Trempealeau County, right along the Mississippi River, has 27,000 residents. A beautiful small town, family farm history. Believe it or not, I attended a two-room country school, and my mother ran a country store. Every neighbor was a family farm. Today, the largest employer in our county by far is Ashley Furniture. Two brothers and two sisters and their families all still live there. None of them are employed in production agriculture. If we, however, can create the potential of philanthropy by capturing just 5% of the projected transfer of wealth in this very rural, very ordinary county of 27,000 people, we will have a $16 million endowment, providing over $800,000 annually to the improvement of that county's standard of living. So in conclusion, this story about rural philanthropy is not about me, nor is it actually about the Council on Foundations, although we're very proud to have hosted these 3 conferences during my tenure. But if it is about the new rural that Carl Stauber writes, then it must also be about the new capital and the new innovation of rural philanthropy. This is different, but it's not necessarily hard. It requires vision, communications, and commitment by each of us whose path has been lit by the candle of opportunity and optimism and the values of our rural heritage. My colleagues at the council staff have heard me say this too often, some of you probably as well. My favorite poet is Robert Frost. And so when I was putting these remarks together this weekend, I thought, for one last time, I'm going to force them to listen to me reading Robert Frost. He said some words that seemed awfully appropriate for this Wednesday morning in Kansas City. Some ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in the woods, and I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Rural philanthropy holds the potential to create the rural America of our vision. So let us go forward to innovate, to implement, and to create the impact we seek. In doing so, it will be clear for all to see that whether you or I are here 2 years hence, either the Council on Foundations or someone else will again convene rural philanthropy. Because it's not about us. It's about the power of philanthropy and the potential of rural America's future. Thank you for who you are and all that you do.